Module 10. Get deeper intimacy by revealing more. Key lesson. Don't feed him problems to solve. Let him discover them instead. Brené Brown studies human connection, our ability to empathize, belong, and love. She set out on a journey to research what causes people to feel connected. After sorting through thousands of responses from surveys and interviews she gathered during her research, she realized there was one factor that seemed to determine whether or not a person felt connected. It had to do with the way people handle vulnerability and shame. Surprisingly, the more vulnerable we allow ourselves to be about the fact that we are not perfect, the greater the sense of belonging and love we feel from those around us. It turns out we all have feelings of guilt and shame, but some of us try to hide from those feelings. The more we try to hide our imperfections, the more we block out our ability to believe we are worthy of love and connection. But people who accept their own flaws and allow themselves to be vulnerable operate from the belief that it's okay to be loved even when you're not perfect. So what it all comes down to is a decision to be vulnerable, to have courage, and to accept ourselves as being lovable and worthy of love even when we are not perfect. This lets people into our lives in a way that causes us to seem more real to them. They empathize with our needs and flaws and vulnerabilities, and they feel more connected with us. In turn, we allow ourselves to feel loved because we have let other people see the real me. The thing that I have learned is that vulnerability is at the center of fear and shame, but it is also at the center of joy and gratitude and love and belonging. Brené Brown. I share all of this with you as a preface to something very important we are going to talk about next. I'm about to ask you to let your weaknesses show. I'm about to ask you to let your vulnerabilities be present in the relationship you have. Doing so serves as a silent action signal that pulls out his heartstrings in a special way. Revealing vulnerabilities, needs, the real you, desires you're slightly ashamed of, is not something you can make him do. He has to choose to do this himself. For this aspect of the relationship, your power only extends to yourself, but that is naturally the most important place to start. Let him see the real you, which includes your real needs and your real desires. Doing so will allow him to sink his teeth into the mission of providing for you. This will cause him to feel his life and interactions with you are highly significant. Why? Because he will find more genuine opportunities to serve your true needs and desires. It's the place of true intimacy and true connection that you can't reach by any other means. There's just no shortcut or substitute for being real. You'll never do it perfectly, and that's okay. But reach for open vulnerability and you'll get into his heart in a way that can't be done by trying to look good all the time. Go one step deeper than good communication. If you spend even a little time reading up on what makes a relationship work, you'll come across a lot of advice on improving communication. Happy couples have good communication, right? Well, yes. But are they happy because they have good communication? Or do they have good communication because they're happy? A recent study from the University of Georgia confirms that good communication and romantic success do go hand in hand. But good communication seems to be a side effect of relationship success, not the reason for it. Think of it like this. If you're really fit and healthy, you likely exercise and eat right. But you don't work out because you're already in shape. Rather, being in shape is one of the results of regular exercise and a smart diet. Good communication happens when there's already a special foundation built on something deeper than just conversation. To go beyond mere communication, you need a unique and powerful kind of intimacy. Psychologist Douglas LaBiere calls this level of romantic intimacy radical transparency. Radical transparency happens when two people are able to really be themselves around each other, totally open and honest. If you want to take your relationship to that level, you'll need to do two things. Number one, be open about yourself. It's important to put your best foot forward, especially at the beginning of a relationship, but casting yourself in the best possible light should never involve deception. Here's an easy example. Don't use a picture from 10 years ago on your dating profile. At a deeper level, being open about yourself means being candid about what you really want in this life, but also the ways you failed to live up to your dreams. It's just more relatable than painting a perfect picture of who you are. Here are some examples of what I mean. What's something you want to achieve that you haven't succeeded with yet? What is one character trait you want others to see in you even though you willingly admit you're not there yet? What's something you want to go after in life, but you haven't yet because of the way fear holds you back? Talking about those things will also encourage him to share the same kind of stuff with you. When he does, number two, be receptive as your guy reveals himself to you. This is the other side of the coin. It feels good to be heard and to be validated, Guys may not talk much about their feelings, but they want acceptance and validation just as much as you do. And the whole thing is cyclical. Just like being open with him will encourage him to open up to you. Being receptive when he shares will encourage him to be receptive toward you. This is radical transparency in action. It's painfully easy to miss important opportunities to be receptive. For example, if he gets excited about his new smartphone, you might be tempted to roll your eyes and say, "Boys and their toys." But that's not being receptive. Instead, be the person he can share his passions with, both great and small, especially when he reveals the little boy that is still a part of who he is. Good communication is important. It certainly plays a vital role in maintaining a successful relationship, but it's not a romantic cure-all. The real secret is radical transparency. You should be able to be yourself around your guy, and he needs to be able to be himself. Not only that, but you both need to accept and validate one another. Master that, and good communication will follow every time. Acknowledge his need to impress. Do you remember those girls in high school who always seemed to have a way with guys? I'm not talking about anything inappropriate, but something more subtle and powerful that caused boys to feel romantically drawn toward them. Those girls intuitively realized one important thing about guys. They understood that a young man will fall all over himself for a girl who acknowledges his need to impress her. These girls played up their feminine appeal by sometimes putting on the damsel in distress impression. They stumbled upon what I now call the damsel in distress signal. It's not the most active way of asserting girl power, but you have to admit it works. And some intelligent women incorporate that bit of knowledge into their interactions with the more mature version of these same guys even to this day. How can you boost your romantic appeal by making use of his need to impress? Let me help you. Let him be a provider. Recognize his strengths and abilities in real time by allowing him to come to your rescue in the tiniest ways. You have no idea how much joy it brings a man to be able to open a jar for his mother, wife, girlfriend, aunt, or grandmother. Don't just be willing to let him help you. Actively draw him closer to you by feeding his desire to matter. If you sit down with a pencil and paper, you'll have a hard time coming up with a list of more than 5 ways to acknowledge his need to impress. Fortunately, there's a much better method. Start that list mentally in your head. Essentially, it is a seed you plant in your own mind, a question mark of sorts. Your mental list will act like a magnet for ideas. You'll be surprised how quickly you begin to notice small ways to invite him to come to your rescue. Now, here's a powerful upgrade. You'll get much better results if you add this extra tip. Show him a need, but don't tell him how to fix it. When you have all the ideas about how the relationship can grow and improve, it turns off his drive to take responsibility. How can you change this? Show him a need, but don't offer a solution. This is a tremendous opportunity. It's possible to draw him closer while doing less of the work to keep the relationship strong. An empty canvas is a living wonder, far lovelier than certain pictures. Wassily Kandinsky. Begin at the end. Project your mind in the positive end result you hope to bring into his life as a result of your relationship with him. Do you believe you can enrich his life? Will he be happier if he has you in his life? If so, picture that end result vividly in your mind's eye. Picture it so vividly that it spills over into the way you interact with him now. This simple mental exercise will fill you with confidence and happiness. It will dispel feelings of shyness while causing you to feel relaxed and sure of yourself as you interact with him. Less contrived, more genuine. People can tell when you are being fake. Earlier, I encouraged you to be vulnerable and open with your true needs and desires. Then I told you to get creative so you can think of more ways to meet his need for feeling useful. Those creative ideas are useful, but they're not as powerful as genuine needs. When you allow him to meet your genuine needs, you will find a deeper level of connection forming. That deeper level of connection arises because of the way your genuine needs trigger his provider instinct. Your genuine needs are like a key that fits perfectly into the lock of your man's desire to be a provider. When turned, this key activates his desire to receive your approval as a good and worthy provider. He will crave your affirmation. At first glance, this sort of relationship may seem unbalanced. Yet, it is an ancient and delicate balance of the male and female polarities. Its power to build feelings of significance between a man and a woman is derived from the natural way opposites attract. The rich qualities of your feminine appeal must contrast against the opposite polarity of his masculine instincts in order to reach a climax of romantic tension. And remember, a romantic tension is a good thing. It is a part of the beautiful dance of courtship that has been going on for thousands of years.